Welcome to Pirate King. I'm Daniel, a software engineer at Microsoft, ex-software engineer at Amazon and eBay, and also a software engineering mentor at two educational startups. In this video, I'm going to talk about the best programming languages you should learn as a beginner, whether as a hobby, a student, or someone who's seriously considering making a career transition, etc. Programming languages, you've heard about them. C, C++, Objective-C, C#, F#, Java, JavaScript, Python, Swift, HTML, CSS, SQL, Go, Kotlin, Ruby, Scala, Perl. Holy shit. The sheer list itself is overwhelming. There's just so many of them. And guess what? That's not all. You obviously don't have the time to learn all those. So which language should you focus now as a beginner? What is the best language for setting that first step in a particular industry? Or which one should you avoid as your first language? Well, let's find out. First off, here's the list of programming, scripting, and markup languages that I know, in the order of most popular technologies list in the survey of 2021 Stack Overflow. JavaScript, HTML, CSS, Python, SQL, Java, Node.js, TypeScript, C#, Bash, C++, C, and PowerShell. Most of which I've used professionally, some of which I've used on my personal project or learned myself. Just to set the right expectations here, there's no such thing as the ultimate programming language. This language is the best. That language is the worst. This one sucks the most. There are obviously pros and cons for each programming language. Even a language that's worse to learn can actually be the best to use for certain situations. For the purpose of this video, I've personally curated 6 programming languages that are best for beginners to learn in terms of popularity, utility, and relevance. Popularity. Is it commonly used? Utility. Is it widely used? Relevance. Is it future-proof? I'll give tailored suggestions for each language in terms of these criteria. So given your current situation, personal preference, or the type of industry you're interested in, you can decide which suits you the best. Before I tell you which languages are the best, let me first tell you the 2 languages that you should definitely avoid as a beginner, at least not until you're quite comfortable with the ones I'm about to mention. They are C++ and C. Why not C++? You know, C++ is the language that started the OOP, object-oriented programming paradigm. There's no doubt about that, but because it's the language that started it all, it's also the most premature of all compared to other languages that came after it, like Java and C# in terms of its syntax. I mean, C++ is probably one of the most convoluted and difficult to write programming language out there. I've talked to some of the skilled professionals and senior C++ engineers in Microsoft before. Despite developing with the language for more than 10 years, they admit that they still spend a fair amount of energy and time fighting the syntax and not the logic. That's how bloody difficult the language is. And I know there are a lot of universities or institutions that still teach Computer Science 101 with C++. Well, shame on you. Seriously, what is your goal here? To demotivate students and make them drop programming courses so that you can deal with fewer students? I honestly can't believe it when I hear people say programming wasn't their thing because they couldn't keep up with C++ in their introductory programming course. I mean, I don't think programming is for everyone either, but C++ is definitely not the language you expect an entry-level student to enjoy and keep up with. But then, when should you learn C++? Even though I still recommend against it, you can consider learning it as your first language if you want to become a game developer. Why? Virtually all high-end games are in C++. PlayStation, Xbox, Unreal Engine, CryEngine. You can script Unity games with C# or JavaScript, but guess which language Unity itself is written in? C++ is the choice for game development because it offers the highest performance. You need that for gaming because all these graphics and split-second calculations solely depend on your computer's hardware. On the other hand, even if your computer lacks the computing power, ordering stuff at Amazon.com is not a problem because all the heavy computing is done by their servers, not your computer. Long story short, learn C++ only if you're serious about game development. If not, try your best to avoid it. The next programming language you should avoid as a beginner is C. But it's such a famous language. Well, you're right. C is a good language. After all, if C++ is the language that started OOP, C is the language that started everything. It's the mother of all languages. However, I don't recommend it to beginners for one reason: pointers. You see, many college students drop their C programming courses for the following reason. Either they encounter pointers or recursion. Recursion you just cannot avoid, but pointers you can if you learn other high-level languages like Java and C#. In fact, one of the goals in the creation of Java was to invent a C-like language, but with a greater simplicity, like removing pointers. C, C++, and pointers are all great similar to to the reasons I gave for C++, but for most beginners, you want to start off with a simple language that helps you focus solely on learning how programming works, not fighting the syntax. Alright, now that we have talked about the 2 programming languages you should avoid as a beginner, let's now talk about the 6 programming languages I recommend to beginners. Again, I'm going to talk about them in terms of their popularity, utility, and relevance. So take note of their pros and cons and see which one suits you the best. The first programming language I recommend is JavaScript. Popularity. According to Stack Overflow, it's the most commonly used language for 9 years in a row. Why is it so popular then? Try to think of it this way. You can pretty much say that everything you do on your browser runs on JavaScript. Chrome, Edge, Firefox, Safari, doesn't matter. It's not going to be a production level website without JavaScript. Not to mention that most software engineers also work on web. Utility. It's one of the most versatile languages out there. I'd say shoulder to shoulder with Python. Learn React.js for front-end and Node.js for back-end, and hey, you're a full-stack developer. You still need to know the markup languages HTML and CSS, but they're hardly programming languages and are easy to learn. Making a website with one language was never possible before, but it is now with the debut of Node. What's more, you can also develop mobile apps natively for both Android and iOS using React Native. Yes, React Native is cross-platform compatible, and even develop desktop apps with JavaScript using Electron. Not only that, you can make games on web and Unity using JavaScript. And lastly, it's used in machine learning and artificial intelligence too, just to name a few others. With web, mobile, desktop, client, server, machine learning, and AI combined, you can pretty much dominate the entire world. What about relevance? Well, as I've mentioned earlier, it's the most popular and commonly used programming language now. As such, it is one of the most sought after skills in the job market. With the language born in 1995, it's even older than some of you. And it's pretty much everywhere on the web. With Node strong on the server side, React backed by the first letter of FANG on the client side, and the language itself backed by all browsers, JavaScript's simply not going anywhere. The second programming language I recommend is Python. Popularity. According to Stack Overflow, it's the 3rd most popular language in 2021 and the most wanted language for its 5th year. Its syntax is so simple and easy that it's considered one of the best languages to learn for beginners. It has a great support from the massive community and also has thousands of free excellent libraries out there helping you save time and focus on development. Utility. Again, its versatility is shoulder to shoulder with JavaScript. It can be used in nearly any kind of environment including web, desktop, mobile, and hardware. Leveraged as the backend using Django or Flask, utilized heavily in the fields of cloud computing and big data. Not to mention that it's completely dominated the fields of AI, machine learning, and data science. Relevance. It's one of the first languages students choose to learn due to the high demand in the job market. And for this reason, one of the core languages schools choose to teach. Lastly, it's a language that's heavily backed by not just one, but multiple companies such as Google, Facebook, and AWS. And with a growing number of engineers choosing Python as the language for lead coding, Python's not going anywhere either. If you want a language that can open up many career opportunities and at the same time is easy and simple to learn, Python won't disappoint you. The next 2 languages are those you should learn if you are serious about becoming a software engineer and studying computer science in depth. You know, establishing that solid foundation. And they are C# and Java. So the 3rd programming language I recommend is C#. But hey, I'm not recommending C# prior to Java simply because I work at Microsoft. My mother language is Java. I learned it in university. I have some experience developing Android apps and servers with it. And while many of you have seen that blue coffee cup with red steam coming out of it at some point in your life, the only thing you can recall about C# is probably that tricky note you've learned to play back in your middle school music class. Yes, Java was the more famous one. It was the better one. In fact, C# benchmarked Java. But the thing is, C# has not only caught up, but also gotten better. There are many features C# provides that Java does not or were added after C#. For example, properties in classes, extension methods, generics with primitive types, async and await keywords, link, much better lambda, the bar keyword, to name a few. Long story short, there are obviously pros and cons to C# as well. But for learning a new language as a beginner, which by the way is the point of this video, C# beats Java in my honest opinion. So let's go back to popularity, utility, and relevance. Popularity. According to Stack Overflow, .NET Core is the most loved library. Guess which language it's written in? C#. C# also tops the most commonly used language in the survey, although it's behind Java. But we'll get to that later. But just think about why people love it the most. It's probably because it's easy, simple, and convenient to use in many aspects, which can translate to easy, simple, and convenient to learn in many aspects. Utility. C# is surprisingly versatile for a strongly and statically typed language. You can build Windows applications, backend servers, cloud apps on Azure, native mobile apps for both Android and iOS via Xamarin, games with Unity, Internet of Things, etc. Relevance. People also refer to C# tech stack as Windows stack. Well, because Microsoft developed it, and you need C# to develop Windows things. Just like JavaScript and Python, C# is used pretty much everywhere as well. It's open source, and with Microsoft backing it, it's a damn good core language to learn. The fourth programming language I recommend is Java. Like I said earlier, Java was ahead of C# in terms of features, and now it's behind C# in my opinion. Some people attribute the outcome in Oracle's acquisition of Java and Microsoft's decision to go open source with C#. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But the good news is, I still find Java to be an excellent language to learn. Popularity. According to Stack Overflow, it's the 5th most popular language and the most popular strongly and statically typed language, even beating C#. But if C# is so loved by the developers, how come it falls behind Java in popularity ranking? I would say it's because Java had been dominant for a good number of years. I mean, I've seen big guys like Google, Facebook, Amazon use Java and other languages before, but I've never seen or heard a single one of them use C#. C# is simply not the top language of choice for the big players. Maybe because Microsoft is their direct competitor? Not 100% sure, but Java's also been around before some of you were even born. And how does the developer's most beloved language or framework matter when they are not so much loved by the employers? Utility. Java's ubiquitous. More than 3 billion devices run Java according to Oracle. Many server applications are written in Java using frameworks like Spring. And most importantly, you need Java for Android development. I know, the official language for Android has recently changed to Kotlin. Java's still a dominant language regardless, and one with a great online community for support. Relevance. Java continues to be one of the most used development platforms. Lots of Android apps are built with Java. Many schools still teach computer science with Java as the primary language. Not to mention a huge community it's cultivated over the decades. Backed by Oracle itself, Java's still a solid core language to learn with a strong demand in the job market. The fifth language I recommend is Swift. So you might think this is an odd choice, and I agree, in the sense that Swift is mainly used for Apple devices. But Apple indeed is one of the thing, and we can no longer talk about a computer, phone, or even a watch without Apple. And if I'm going to include Java in my list of recommended programming languages for Android, I figured it's only fair of me to include Swift for iOS. Because after all, there might be some of you out there who want to become Apple developers. So popularity. Is it really popular? With the popularity index at 5.1% at Stack Overflow, I wouldn't say so. But I guess it's not a matter of popularity, but necessity, because it's what Apple uses to write their own software. It's like when you join Microsoft, you have no option but C#. Utility. You can use the language to develop native apps for iOS, Mac, Apple TV, and Apple Watch. I've never done it myself personally, but I guess it's kind of cool. Relevance. Hey, the $2 trillion company is not going anywhere anytime soon. The last programming language I recommend is SQL. I don't know why, but for some reason it's pronounced SQL, not SQL, but we write SQL. So what is SQL? It stands for Structured Query Language, a programming language used to communicate with relational database. And it's also the language you need to know in order to call yourself a full stack engineer, because SQL falls within backend. Now, it's true that companies are shifting towards NoSQL nowadays, but in my honest opinion, SQL or NoSQL, they are the same shit. You can pretty much think of NoSQL as a simple SQL where you won't likely have to do complex joins anymore. You see, even for apps that use relational databases, writing complex queries, joining multiple tables, indexing a particular column, we're having group order by, it's old school. All developers universally want the same thing, simplicity. Select star from table where partition key equals whatever. It's pretty much all you need to put SQL down on your resume. Popularity, utility, relevance. Again, databases are essential. Your app's not gonna do much without them. It's for the same reason you need to know how to query a database. And it's going to follow you everywhere due to its necessity. Alright, so we've taken a look at the 2 programming languages you should try to avoid and 6 programming languages I recommend as a beginner. Here's the summary. Avoid C++, due to the language's complexity unless you aim to become a game developer. Avoid C due to pointers. Learn JavaScript or Python if you want simple, easy to learn languages that are versatile, has wide usage, and good job prospects. Learn C# or Java if you are serious about becoming a software engineer or learning computer science in general. Learn Swift if you want to build Apple devices. And finally, learn SQL to understand how databases work. Most importantly, understand this. Whatever the language you decide to work with, try to stick to it. Don't give up midway. As a software engineer, the ability to stick to one thing no matter the obstacles you face is an important skill. I promise you, if you get proficient with even one of the programming languages I've mentioned earlier, except for SQL, learning any other language will be a breeze. The 6 languages are what I would consider the core mainstream ones in 2021. There are other great programming languages out there. I simply don't know enough about them to give any kind of recommendations. But again, starting with any one of them in the list is sufficient. If you like my video, hop on board. I invite you to be our next Nakama. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.